Dream Daddy. Daddy Dating Simulator. I didn't know a thing about this game until the day it came out, which is kinda weird given its Game Grumps affiliation, and apparently it's gotten a lot of traction, so I thought I'd give my own take on the game. And I've played my fair share of visual novels and dating sim games, but nothing quite like this? Maybe Hotful Boyfriend? But that game deals in birds and this one dad, so not really the same thing? I don't even know, man. I guess you could call it a first of its kind. You're immediately brought to the title screen with perhaps the most pleasant, quaint song I've ever heard. I stayed at this title screen far longer than I care to admit, just listening to the song and reading various dad tips coming up at the bottom. You've got Dad Tip 46, do it once, do it right. Yeah, that seems like a dad thing to say. Dad Tip 64, get whatever job you want, just make sure it includes health insurance. I'm pretty sure my own dad has told me that exact thing more times than I can count. Dad Tip 76, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. Yeah, no, nice general advice there. Dad Tip 36, trust no one. Whoa, that's certainly a different tone. Once you embark on your journey, you are quickly greeted by Build That Dad. I feel a lot of these choices to build your character were just comically bad on purpose. I find it almost impossible to not make my character look hideous. I fooled around with it for a while though, and I think I got myself pretty close. The game's prologue starts by introducing you to your daughter Amanda, who might be one of the biggest highlights of the game, and one of my favorite characters. The father-daughter dynamic is done really well from the start, and throughout the entire story it's really fun and believable. You're the cringy, somewhat deadbeat father with superior dad arms. And she's almost like one of your buddies. But she's still a teenager with her own set of immaturities and problems that come with it. You and your daughter are moving to a new neighborhood where you spend some time meeting all the different daddies in the area. And there's 7 dads in total. You've got Swole Master Craig, an old dude bro college friend who settled down a bit after having a few kids. Joseph, the friendly youth minister dad with a dysfunctional marriage and a handful of kids. Brian, the overly competitive father who is incredibly proud of his overachieving daughter and loves showing off her accomplishments. Matt, the easygoing cool dad who loves music and owns his own coffee shop. Robert, the bad dad who likes drinking, making dark jokes, and overall just being a bad influence. Hugo, the teacher dad with a rebellious son. And Damon, the Victorian-era, goth-loving, enthusiastic dad. Once you've introduced yourself to everyone and the prologue comes to an end, it's time to fill out that dad book. The great social media platform for dads only. I'm not sure what the purpose of this is or if it has any effect on the game whatsoever, but it's really fun to fill out nonetheless. It's just a lot of questions that you answer about yourself for your profile page. And you've got some real gems here like, what do I never leave home without? One of these things are... Oh, me too. Alright guys, I'm going to be back in about an hour. Shoot, my phone. Wallet. Keys. Am I forgetting anything else? Once you have your dad book profile set up, it's time to pick your daddy to hang out with by sending them a message. Who you talk to and how the story progresses is largely up to you and who you decide to message. And you know what? I really like this system. In a lot of visual novels and dating sims, there's this problem where any character you're not talking to slowly fades away into obscurity into the background, never to be seen again. But this is not so much of a problem in Dream Daddy. I can go work out with Craig one day and go get pissed drunk with Robert the next. I'm sure it's no surprise that a game called Dream Daddy, Daddy Dating Simulator has some genuinely funny writing in it, but it has some genuinely funny writing in it. There are some choices that just really incite your curiosity, like, this can't be the right choice, right? Then there's the best character in the game, Sad Master Quinn, and his entire existence.
Sad Master Quinn!
He's just constantly trying to find a way to slip in how terrible his life is and how depressed he is. It's a lot funnier than it should be. He's just
so sad.
Now, what I actually didn't expect from this game is the amount of character development it tried to squeeze in, and a lot of serious stories it tries to tell. It was really surprising. I didn't do my research into the development of the game or what it was actually going to be like before diving in, so I had this assumption that a game called Daddy Dating Simulator, endorsed by the Game Grumps, a group mostly known for being comedians more than anything else, was going to be all for laughs. And can you blame me? What, with the simulator tag being thrown around with things like Goat Simulator and how ridiculous dad tropes have gotten with games like Shower with Your Dad Simulator, and see look, another simulator game. It's really hard to say it's the developer's fault though. What are they supposed to name a comedic game that tries to tell a serious story about dating dads? So I'm just really stating this to set the record straight. If you're considering getting this game because you're looking for a meme-tastic joke game, and the idea of playing out a fantasy father with the end goal to shack up with another father bugs you, then this probably isn't your game. But if that sounds up your alley, or you're like me and you just don't care one way or another so long as it's compelling or fun, then there's a lot of that to be had here. Because for me, it was really nice to see it break away from some of its jokes. They play up Joseph's twins as the creepy twins who say lines at the same time that are supposed to creep you out. But pretty early on, you get a touching moment where one of them starts making food with the dad, and it's just kinda touching when I was expecting it to just stick to this joke. Even if the twins were never touched on again, it was appreciated. And then there's the constant interactions with your daughter Amanda, where despite her often interacting with you like your great friends, is still not above being a teenager in high school with her own set of problems that she can't tell her dad. No matter how rushed this conflict felt. Actually, now that I think about it, no matter how engaging the story got, I always thought it felt a little too short or too rushed. I mentioned how Dad Book acts as a place to decide who you hang out with for the day, but I didn't mention how you get to a game ending, which is hanging out with a dad 3 times. On the surface, this means you can have a rather long playthrough. You can hang out with all the dads a little bit before you decide which one you want to get an ending with. But in practice, hanging out with somebody 3 times before getting an ending just isn't enough to develop a character. I was really left wanting more, like every single ending was a little shy of living up to its full potential. Joseph and his family life were touched upon, but never enough for me to feel fully emotionally invested in it. And I really wanted to be. Damon's route feels like it was about identity and being okay with who you are, but the stakes it presents come and go so fast. This really wasn't a small problem for me either. I was getting really invested in these vibrant and interesting characters, so each and every abrupt end brought me back to the reality of this game. It wants to tell a deep story, but it simply doesn't have the time to do so. And I finished this game in 8 hours, not exactly what I would call a good length to explore 7 completely different and unique characters and the relationship you build with them. What is that, like an hour a piece for each route, if you keep in mind the time with Amanda and the prologue? This game is not all just storytelling though. Oh no, you also have these dreadful mini-games. See, every once in a while your leisurely story reading is interrupted by carving wood blocks, putting together a gargoyle statue, navigating a crowd, slamming your head against the wall repeatedly because what's the difference? Just so they can add a little variety? No thanks, at least not like this. I couldn't even figure out how to work this gargoyle one the first time I played it, just confused on how to flip the pieces around. And then the time ran out for me to realize, yes, your performance on some of these minigames affect the story as well. I shouldn't be clicking through a pleasant, whimsical story just for it to be cut off by some minigame that looks like it's a step away from being floating Unity assets and be punished when I fail. The only one I found even remotely fun was Minigolf, which reminded me of a Flash game I probably played in the early 2000s. There's also a lot to be said about the art direction of this game. Mostly good, but some bad. I'll be honest, I'm a bit of a weeb when it comes to art direction, so I was bracing myself to cope with the Western art style in my visual novel, given I'm used to playing the ones that are predominantly done in Japan. But I found myself pleasantly surprised by how well done I found it. I completely forgot this was something I was worried about once I started the game. I did notice that this game had a complete lack of CGs, which are full-screen original pieces of art for specific scenes, and that was kind of a bummer. When it comes to the voice acting department, this game uses short voice lines to express an emotion of a character at the time, rather than actually having full lines voiced themselves.
Norm Macdonald!
I'm not nearly as critical of this as I have seen a lot of people on the internet be, but it is still worth saying that full voice acting would have been nice. And really, one other gripe. Honestly, I'm nitpicking here, but this one really bugs me. I'm not a fan of the game's save and load menu at all. When saving and loading, you get one straight list of all the saves you've ever done, newest to oldest. You don't have save slots or any form of organization, you just hit save and it goes straight to the top of the list. This means if you don't want your save box to just be a cluttered mess and have any semblance of order, you're gonna have to delete every save you don't want one by one. And if you don't do this, you're going to have to painstakingly scroll through your sea of saves just to find that one save you have that skips the prologue. It's not that big of a deal, but you would think that this would be a really easy thing for them to figure out. Instead, even when it autosaves, it keeps a separate autosave for you every single time. I think I have like 100 saves, it's ridiculous. I may be harping on this game a lot, but all in all I didn't dislike it. It's more like if I didn't think ratings was a stupid way to measure a game, I'd give it something like a 5 out of 10, where a 5 is perfectly average, has a lot going for it but a handful of problems. It has well-written jokes, really likable characters, excellent art, and just a great concept for a story in general. Despite this though, I think it's really held back by its length and its inability to develop any meaningful story that hit me. There were also a lot of what felt like shortcuts made in the development in the game, such as not having full voice acting, a lack of CGs, and just really bad minigames. So it does come down to one big question, I think. Does the unique concept of dating your dream daddy in a witty and fun, albeit short story really get you excited? If so, then this may still be the game for you, as there's really nothing like it on the market and there's a lot to enjoy here. Are you just okay with the concept and find it funny but not exactly motivating? Then maybe this isn't the game for you, unless it hits a really serious sale.